I use they them pronouns. I hung out in the Women's Center a lot for tea and lunch and a break, but I was also part of the Penn Association for Gender Equity page for 4 years during my time at Penn. The Women's Center was a base and a bridge for me and was a really important kind of space of solace while we were fighting the good fight. To me, gender equity is something that needs to be fluid and always changing. The definition of what different communities might need over time is never going to be universal, and so gender equity is action that is listening to marginalized communities over speaking over them, in whatever way that means. The Women's Center is fantastic, and this anniversary marks something so important. The creation of the Women's Center and the Gender Studies Department was well earned at the time 50 years ago, but what they needed then is different than what we need now. My hope is that the Women's Center can move forward in ways that center other communities and are not just about women, because it's not everyone and it's not what everyone needs. And so I think a lot of it was kind of rebuilding the brand of what the center could do, like a reinvention post-pandemic. And it was cool to see that shift, even though it wasn't drastically different than what I experienced before, but the whole campus had to rewrite itself after that time period. And watching people like relearn the joys of the center, even in their sophomore and junior years, was really exciting. And that was a really big part of the staff that had to kind of work through that at the time. I was a big part of founding Penn's first pre-orientation program for people of marginalized genders. And I remember watching the first class of students who were incoming first years mingling in the lobby downstairs, hanging out on the couch, familiarizing themselves with the space and with each other. And that's something I will remember for the rest. It was one of the most valuable memories I have of my time at Penn in general, even just beyond the Women's Center. So yeah, that program meant a lot to me, and it couldn't have happened without the staff that were supporting Paige through that process. So yeah, I'm really thankful that it was associated with the center and hosted from here. Originally, when we were pitching this program my freshman or sophomore year, we were convincing the administration that we needed it. And one of the biggest reasons that we needed it at the time was because of the high rates of sexual violence occurring on campus. This was around the time of the 2019 AAU survey that found that the rates of sexual violence hadn't gone down over the past 5 years since the last one. A big goal of Penn Gen Ec was to make sure that even these 30 students were familiar with the resources for various kinds of harm that they could experience or that their friends could experience on campus. And these students were learning not only about resources, but also about leadership and fostering community within these spaces. A lot of them went on to become leaders in organizations representing minorities on campus, not just gender. It was one of the first spaces I saw on campus for underclassmen that was really about people finding safety in spaces that they didn't know where else to look. I remember coming to Penn as a first year, and it took me months to find the Penn Women's Center, much less to find a community of people who are willing to have really deep conversations about what it meant to exist as a marginalized person on campus. And creating that space for these first 30 students where before day one of school, they had a grounding base to find themselves in a way that felt supported by staff and by each other, which was really important for me to see through. We talked about everything from resources about sexual violence, what transformative justice is. Of course, we went into intersectionality about feminism, but also various other identities being magnified in that space. We brought in guest speakers, and then we were allowed to kind of create our own presentation, so it shifts a little bit each year based on what the leaders of the program feel really passionate about. I also came in here a lot to hang out. The staff are always willing to have a cup of tea with you, or you can talk to them about anything. You can't do any of this work alone, and community building is, I think, the most important thing when it comes to advocacy, direct action, activism. Some of the most beautiful, significant change that I've seen on campus has not necessarily been the success of all of our demands being met when fighting the administration or anything else. It's the people that we've had to glom onto for support along the way. And those are the people who will spend hours with you at a sit-in, or will sit with you when the administration says no again, or will make sure that you're safe in an instance where you are put in a precarious position because of the work that you're doing. So my advice would be to community build and to hold your values true, to find people that will be there for you and will stand behind you in moments where you need that extra support. I hope that the people who are celebrating the 100th anniversary can look back on this with the same kind of nostalgia and separation that I look back when I see when this center was created. Again, what happened with PwC, with GSWS was so important, and the activism that they did for that space was historical. And also, it was 50 years ago, and we need new things. And so I hope that in 100 years, they're looking back on this and they're like, oh my gosh, we need, I don't know, something I can't even fathom now. And I hope that's how history looks back on this moment. To me, growth means flexibility. It means seeing and listening to maybe what younger people are telling you that you need and moving forward in a way that is envisioning a future that you might not even be able to imagine or that feels impossible. Solidarity to me means a community without lines and barriers. A lot of the work that we do is the same, and we're all moving towards something very similar, and if we're not, then we need to educate ourselves about that. So solidarity for me is building a community where everyone is in everyone's corner. Action is being able to look back on who you were in this moment and not regret anything that you were or weren't able to do. It's not making excuses for why you're not showing up for people. It's thinking about the positive change that has been made in history and envisioning that you are a part of that in the present. Action is getting off the couch and doing what needs to be done. I think it's important to envision, to lean into your imagination. I think that change can't happen without imagination, and what I envision for this campus is a place and change that is driven by the students and what the students need, and specifically marginalized students on this campus. But my imagination moves us towards somewhere that feels safer. And I'm hopeful that one day, maybe the 100th year anniversary or maybe sooner, we can get to something similar to that.